It is absolutely crazy that Hugh Jackman has been Wolverine since 2000. I mean, seriously, has there been any, film character that has shown up in 9 different films for 17 years? I don't think so. Props, Hugh Jackman. Just one of the many reasons why I love you. So yeah, I saw Logan last Thursday night. I didn't get a review up over the weekend because I was helping out at a youth retreat. And for that reason, since it's been a whole weekend and I'm guessing a lot of you have already seen the film, this will have spoilers in it. So I'm just saying it here right now. There will be spoilers in this. You've been warned. So Logan was number 4 on my most anticipated films of 2017 list because I love X-Men. I love the first X-Men film. I love X2. I have fun with X3. It might not be a fantastic film. X-Men First Class and X-Men Days of Future Past honestly are probably my 2 favorite X-Men films of all time. And some of you may disagree with me on this, but I personally love Apocalypse. I think it's a great film. I don't exactly know how I feel about X-Men Origins Wolverine because, honestly, I have fun watching it. I'm not saying it's a great movie or anything. Maybe I need to go back and watch it again because so many people now are just telling me it's awful. So, I don't know. And then the follow-up to that, The Wolverine, I think is a really awesome Wolverine film. So yeah, I was super excited to see the 3rd film in the unofficial Wolverine trilogy, I guess. But also the 10th X-Men movie that has ranged from 17 years of X-Men films with one of my favorite actors, Hugh Jackman, as Wolverine. And I will say, this film was an incredibly emotional ride in so many different ways. So this film takes place in the timeline, I did some research, I think it takes place in the timeline of the old Apocalypse, not like X-Men Apocalypse, but like the apocalyptic world at the beginning of Days of Future Past when most of the mutants are already dead. And this happened years after that, and even more of them are dead. In fact, I think they are pretty much all dead, barring Wolverine, Professor X, this albino guy whose name I'm totally blanking on, and a very young mutant played by this girl. Don't know her name, but she was great. I guess there also are a lot of other small mutants that were basically raised in that scientist by the evil guy in this film, but they're not fully aged yet, so whatever. One thing I noticed pretty early in this film is that it's not really a comic book film. It's pretty much just a really gritty drama about a guy who happens to have this mutant power. And it had such an impact on me because if you've seen all the X-Men films, you know everything that Hugh Jackman's character has gone through. All the people he's seen die, all the people he has killed, which plays a major role in this film, I believe. And he's old, he doesn't want to use his powers, all of his friends are dead, mostly. And he's done. And you just feel the anguish and the pain that he's going through. And that grittiness certainly shows itself more given that this film has a very well-deserved R rating. When I heard that this was going to be R, I wasn't over the moon stoked like some crazy comic book fans were. But I definitely was curious to see how that would play into the film. I was a little worried that it might be gratuitous, and there are a couple points where it sort of entertains the idea of getting that far, but it doesn't quite reach that far. But this film is brutal. In the other films, when Wolverine would be slashed with his claws, you wouldn't really see much blood. You got a little bit of that in the Wolverine, but nothing too crazy. In this one, blood is going everywhere. It's really graphic. And so yeah, I will say it added a certain grittiness to the film. The story is essentially, as I said, Logan's and Professor X are at the end of their line, and they meet this young mutant who might just be Logan's daughter. Because she has her own little claws, and she is really good with them. And she thinks there's this safe haven that she found in one of the X-Men comic books. Really clever fourth wall breaking, by the way, when you actually have Wolverine holding one of the X-Men comics. But yeah, she thinks there's this safe haven for young mutants called Eden, which I wonder if was supposed to have some kind of underlying symbolism like Garden of Eden, safe haven, the last resisting hope. I don't know. They didn't really touch on that much, but I thought it was interesting that they named it Eden of all things. So it's basically this movie where Logan and Professor X are transporting this girl to get to this safe haven while they're being chased by these bad guys, one of which who might just be related to William Stryker. And you see Logan and this girl interact in a very touching way, and in a way that you've never seen Wolverine before, because he's never had a kid. I mean, he kind of had a father-daughter relationship with Logan in the originals, but that was more of just like a mentor-friend thing. You do see Logan develop a relationship with this girl throughout the film. And though it's subtle and maybe not quite as developed as it could have been, it's still pretty touching. I also loved what went on between Logan and Professor X. Obviously, there's a ton of history between those two, and just seeing how broken they both are, especially Professor X. I mean, this guy is old. He has these seizures that makes the whole world like... which apparently is an implication that he might have killed some of the other mutants by accidentally doing that. So I thought that was really great. So I had to think about this film a lot before knowing exactly how I felt about it. Because to be perfectly honest, this film is bleak, brutal, and depressing. There is very little light of happiness, very few moments of humor. There's a certain scene that's beautifully executed when, for one reason or another, Logan and Laura, the young mutant, and Professor X are eating dinner with this family, just a simple country family. And it's like the first time you ever see Logan just spending time in like a normal family situation. And this happens maybe half hour, 45 minutes into the film, so you've already seen a lot of that depressing, bleak stuff, so it was really refreshing to see that. But then when the nasty, evil clone Logan showed up and completely brutalized that family, I was like, okay, so this is what we're going for in this film. I remember that shot when the mutant Logan walks in and Professor X is just going on about this tangent about how beautiful a night's sleep he's had. And as he was talking, there was a moment when I realized, like, they haven't shown Logan's face yet. Is this really him? And then at first, when you see the clone Logan and he stabs Professor X in the chest and kills him, I thought it was a dream. But then you realize that it wasn't, and what follows is a very brutal fight between him and the real Logan. It did make me feel kind of bad that there was this beautiful moment of family and just like actually being able to live a real life, and then 2 minutes later they just completely crash it down. And I know they were trying to make a point, but it hit me really hard. And then, you have the scene of Logan burying Professor X. Something happened in the theater when I watched this film, and I didn't understand it. If you saw the film, you know that right after he buries Professor X, he goes over and gets really upset and starts beating the crap out of his car. In the theater I was in, people were laughing at this part for some reason. I don't know why, maybe because he was going crazy, but I was still getting over the emotional fact that Professor X just was killed brutally. So I'm like, why are you guys laughing right now? So I didn't understand that. And then, at the end when he gets to the checkpoint right before the safe haven and he helps Laura and some of the mutants get out away from the bad guys. And then finally at the end of All Ends for Logan, he dies. And it was incredibly emotional and poignant to see him die after everything he's been through. Yeah, there are like 2 or 3 different timelines in the X-Men universe, but it's still emotional. What also takes place is a very, very bloody fight. As I said, this is kind of a drama because there aren't a ton of action scenes in this film. However, when the action goes down, the action and the frickin' blood goes down. So yeah, after thinking about this a lot, I decided that basically this film is kind of like a morality tale because it shows a man broken and beat down after all he's been through and after all the people he has killed. There's a subtle conversation that he has with Laura near the end of the film about the toll that it takes on you when you take a life. When you're killing a good person or even when you're killing the bad person for the right reason. It still takes a toll on you. And I really appreciate that. And then when the kids are having the funeral for Logan, Laura says a few words for Logan and she mentions that thing about killing does take a toll on you. So there is very little hope peeping out of the rough, brutal darkness of this film. And there is a very touching moment between Logan and Laura right before he dies when she calls him daddy and she's tearing up. It hit me. But I do think they could have developed that a little more. That being said, what they did with it, I still enjoyed. So yeah, overall, I thought this is a really great film. A good, dark, granted, send-off to Logan and the character of the Wolverine. James Mangold did a great job directing this. I definitely felt aspects, well not aspects, but elements of 3:10 to Yuma and Walk the Line, both of which he directed because 3:10 to Yuma is a Western, and this feels like a Western because you're down in the South, out in the dusty, dry land. And I don't think it's any coincidence that they had a Johnny Cash song in the trailer and the end credits. So overall, I am going to give Logan an A-. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video as always. Parents, don't take your kids to go see this film. It's brutal and it's profane, but it is a very, very emotional send-off to the character of Wolverine and Logan. If you like this, guys, please click below and subscribe. I got some videos there and I hope to have more soon. And if you want to comment below and let me know what you think, please do. I always welcome that, and I will see you later.